Happy New Year to each and every one of you. This is the first time I'm showing my face here, so I'm using this opportunity to wish you guys a happy New Year. I know 2020, it was really tough for each and every one of us. We're all affected in different ways, but I'm praying for each and every one of you that 2021, if you have set a target for yourself, if you have a dream that you wish to achieve, just know that I am saying a prayer for you. I'm saying a prayer for myself. I'm saying a prayer for everybody, because we all need to hit our targets. We all need to reach our goals, y'all. So say a prayer for someone, because I'm saying a prayer for you. Leave an amen in the comments, and then I'm going to respond to that. So jumping into today's video, I'm going to be doing a natural light photo shoot, and I'm going to talk about the lighting conditions, certain things I faced, certain issues I faced whilst I was shooting, and how I was able to combat that. I'm also going to talk about my camera settings or my camera gear that I use for the shoot in particular, and also just the way I worked around in that small space to create like a variety of images. I'm always doing these breakdowns so you guys can have a better understanding of the things that I face on set and how I'm able to combat them or achieve them, or basically just show you the conditions that I was shooting in and how I was able to achieve the kind of images that you're going to be seeing. So these images, I'm also going to be color grading with my brand new Ecotone presets. If you haven't seen that, I'm going to leave a link down below. You can check it out or even look at how it affects these images, and if you think you want to cop one, the link is down below. Just click it and purchase one to support your boy. So the first thing I want you guys to pay attention to is to use the live view of your camera. You know, you can put your eye through the viewfinder, or if you're using a mirrorless camera, you can see those settings exactly on your LCD. If you're using a mirrorless, you can flip it to live view and then just have a look at your LCD, and that's going to show you the camera settings that you're currently using. So one powerful tool that is inside every camera that I want beginners basically to pay more attention to is going to be your histogram. If you're a beginner, let the histogram tool be your best friend, because it can help you or it can guide you to achieve proper exposures. And the way it works, funny enough, is really simple. Once you're capturing an image, right, you're capturing information, and that information is calculated or translated for you to see an image at the back of your camera. But inside that, it's also represented as a graph using your histogram. And the way it works is simple, like I said in the beginning. If the information moves all the way to the left, it means you're underexposing or completely shooting black. If it moves all the way to the right, it means that you're overexposing or shooting near white. If all the information is in the middle, it means that it's more or less balanced. There are some situations where you can have majority of your information in the middle, which is fine, and then you'd have a little bit in the blacks or a little bit in the highlights. Don't worry, once you're shooting raw, you can recover those once you have the majority of your information in the middle. And that's the way you can achieve like a very balanced image. So if you're not shooting, just looking at your image and how it's appearing on your screen and you're using the histogram, there's a high chance that you can get like a very good exposure. And when you come into post, you can now tweak those to give you the contrast that you're looking for in your images. So back to the shoot. Now you know that we are using natural light for these images, right? So the only light source that we're going to get is what's going to come through the windows. And then there were like 3 different sets of windows. There was a large one, and then there were 2 small ones, which I decided to use as more of an aesthetic in the images, right? The small ones. And I used the big ones as my main light source. That was what was going to wash into the room and light my subject. So I noticed that there were 2 things I could do with the lighting that was coming into the room. The first one was going to be to get a little bit of a harsh light and also get some patterns follow my subject, because the light that was coming through the left side of the window was harsh and it was creating these patterns on the floor, and it was really interesting. So I knew that if I move my subject to that light source, I would be able to create some textures with the lighting. Another thing too is to move your subject away from that large light source and further back into the room where you don't have direct light hitting here, and so it means that the light's going to bounce off in the room and create a very soft flattering light source. So in that same space, we're able to create very contrasting images, and those will be more exciting to look at if you put them in your portfolio. The next thing I want to talk about is going to be your equipment. When you're shooting in a very small space and you want to go with long focal lengths, trust me, you're really going to underutilize the space, especially if you're shooting in a place that has these aesthetics and you want to incorporate them into your shoot. I recommend you use wider focal lengths, or if you have a range, maybe a 16 to 35, 24 to 70, anything that can zoom in from a wide to a slight telephoto, a medium telephoto. I recommend those for indoor shoots like this where you're shooting in small spaces. So the lens that I was using for this particular one is going to be my 24-70, and I paired it with my 5D Mark IV. And again, I was using my histogram to direct me in terms of the exposure. So I was mostly underexposing because I know that with the 5D Mark IV, it has a decent amount of dynamic range, and I can push that in post if I want. So if I'm overexposing, there's a high chance I'll not be able to recover the highlights. So I recommend that if you're shooting in very contrasting lighting conditions like this, it's better to underexpose so you can preserve your highlights and then you can lift up your shadows in post. So concerning your focal length and then shooting in small spaces, I would also again recommend that you try different spots in the room, being able to vary your shooting angles. I'm always saying this in my videos, and it's really important. I can't stress on it enough. When you're shooting a variety of angles, you get very interesting crops. You can shoot portrait, you can shoot landscape, you can go closer to your subject, go further away. All those little things always add a new perspective. You can shoot from up, down towards the subject, you can shoot from down, up. Try all those things when you're shooting in small spaces, because all those things will create like a different backdrop, different frame, different texture, and make your shots look more interesting. So that's it for today's video, but remember, if you're a beginner and you're not really comfortable exposing with natural light, use your histogram and trust it. Try and put a lot of the information in the middle part of your histogram and then you're good to go. Try not to move all of the information to the left because you're going to be shooting black or clipping your shadows, and try not to move the histogram information all the way to the right because you're overexposing or shooting white. Try and keep the information in the middle. Always look at the lighting conditions that are coming into the room and then see what's going to be interesting to shoot, or even shoot a mixture of them. So shoot with harsh light if you're getting that in the room, shoot with soft light, and all those things are going to create interesting or a very dynamic set of images for your portfolio. Also know the space that you're shooting in. If it's a small space, I would recommend going with a wider focal length or a range. So 16-35 like I mentioned earlier, 24-70 would be your best bet, and then try zooming, try shooting portraits, landscape, from up down, from down up. Try different angles, try different focal lengths. All those things are also going to help create very interesting or different looking images in that same small space. So I hope you learned a thing or two in this video. I'll catch you guys in the next one. And remember, don't ever give up.